Hi, so tonight we are going to prepare the meals in the freezer to oven 5 meal kit. So if you ordered the kit, you have the cookbooklet with you, and this is your reference with your grocery list right there on page 1. I apologize, my lights are kind of glaring right here. So we have the grocery list. So hopefully you worked off of that to get all of your groceries. We did a little bit of prep work, browning the meat so that that was ready ahead of time. And so that's where we are going to pick up tonight with the video. And I have started my noodles already. We're starting with the baked farfalle and sausage. So the farfalle noodle is simply the bow tie noodles. So you can use whatever noodle that you have on hand or whatever noodle that your family prefers. It really does not matter. So we are starting with our meat. So we browned the sausage with the peppers and then our seasonings right in there. And that while we're waiting for our noodles, because mine have a few minutes to go yet, that we're going to just go ahead and put into our freezer safe 9x13 pan. So I'm just going to go ahead and dump that in there. And then when our pasta is done, then we're just going to add that right in there as well. You'll probably want to grab a few utensils to have on hand, as well as your measuring cups, your aluminum foil, saran wrap, or I prefer to use press and seal, so that's what I have. Your spray. I already sprayed my pan, a couple of them, so that I didn't have to take time out to do that. So we'll have, you'll need all of that while we're going as well. So again, while our pasta is still boiling, I have that on the stove, and you want to cook that 1 minute less than al dente. So just a little bit undercooked, because as it bakes, it's going to continue to cook. So that way you won't get the overcooked noodles. So we're preventing that up front. So we have our meat, and then we're going to pick up on number 3 in the microwave safe bowl. So we're going to start with our cream cheese, which you would cube. So I just cubed it right into the cream cheese boil there. And this is going to be going into the microwave. So again, in a microwave safe bowl, the cream cheese, and we're going to microwave that for 30 seconds. Basically, all that is doing is softening it so that we can just blend it with the jalapeno honey cheese ball. Now, my warning on this one is it does have some spice to it. So I am using only half a package because I love the flavor of this. It is super, super flavorful, but it is hot. It has a medium rated heat to it. On a scale of 1 to 5, Tastefully Simple has ranked it as a 3. Personally, I would rank it as a 4. But if you've known me for a while, you also know that I do not handle spice well. So, but it is spicy. Definitely has some kick to it. So I'm adding half a packet. If you want to go ahead and use the full packet, if you like spice in your house, you go right ahead. And then we're just going to whisk that together. So this is going to be lots of flavor in with our noodles and meat mixture. And then we're also going to add the spinach and herb seasoning. So we want 2 teaspoons of spinach and herb. So again, if you've been with me at all, you know that I don't measure. I don't use measuring spoons much. The lid is 2 tablespoons. So 1 tablespoon would be half a lid. 2 teaspoons would be not quite half a lid. So that's my measuring philosophy. If you want to use measuring spoons, absolutely pull those out and add 2 teaspoons of the spinach and herb to that mixture. And just mix that in together. And then we are going to add our milk and cheese. So 2 cups of the 2% milk and 1 cup of the shredded sharp cheddar cheese. So 1 cup of milk into our bowl. Does anybody else have this measuring cup from Pampered Chef? I love it, but I always have it turned around. When I'm measuring liquids, I see the solid measurements. So 1 cup of 2% milk, 2 cups of 2% milk, sorry, take that back. We are adding another cup. So 2 cups of your 2% milk and 1 cup of the cheddar cheese. And again, your cheese comes in a 2-cup bag. So half a bag of cheese, that's my measurement. If you prefer to actually use a measuring spoon, measure out 1 cup of your cheese. If I'm going fast, for those of you watching this on the replay, the nice thing about doing it on the replay is you can pause it and you can always go back to catch up. So watching this on replay is not a bad idea because everybody works at a different pace. When I've done these workshops in my home, that's been noticeable every time. Is some people are really super fast and other people are a little more intentional and work a little bit slower. So after we're going to add this to our meat mixture, but we have a few more minutes yet on our pasta. So we're going to let that finish up here. We have 3 minutes left on that. Over here. So again, the pasta, the meat mixture, and the milk mixture is all going to go into our pan. And I'm going to go ahead and just add this to the meat mixture while we're waiting for the pasta to finish. In the instructions, it's added to the pan in a different order, but it's a casserole, hot dish. So I don't feel like the order is really all that important. So I'm going to go ahead and just add this right into my meat mixture now. So this is your milk, your cream cheese, your spinach and herb, the jalapeno honey, and then your sharp cheddar cheese. So we're going to add that right in here. Adding it to our pan where we're going to be mixing this in. So my cream cheese and my milk did not blend as well as I would have expected it to, but when this is cooking, that's going to all melt together and it should be just fine. But I am stirring it together up in my pan here just to make sure that it's all evened out a little bit better and not all the cream cheese is sitting in one clump. We want that flavor to be throughout the whole entire pan here. There, we get that mixed in. So it's starting to look like a casserole. And that should have taken us up to enough time with our pasta. We're down to 1 minute on our pasta. So once we add the pasta and then we mix all this together, we are going to be covering this with our plastic wrap and our foil. The containers that I bought actually have lids, so I will be putting those on too, just to help stack them in my freezer. If you don't have lids with yours, that's just fine. Between the saran wrap or the press and seal, whichever you choose to use, along with the foil, will help protect and will help stack in your freezer. We have just another minute on the pasta. So while that is finishing up, I'm just going to look ahead to our next recipe. So our next recipe is going to be the pizza, and we are going to be using another 13 by 9 pan. We are going to be using the roasted garlic infused oil. So this has been one of my favorite oils to use for a long time. We've tried other oils from stores and oil places, but their roasted garlic is not the same as Tastefully Simple's. This is still, in my opinion, by far the best roasted garlic infused oil. You can argue with me, but you probably won't change my mind. So where I'm going to add 1 tablespoon to the bottom of my 13 by 9 pan. So my pasta is done, so we can finish up on the first one. And I'm gonna just set my pan off to the side. And you're gonna notice throughout this that that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna jump ahead to the next one if we're waiting on something, just to keep things rolling along. All right, so we have drained our pasta and I rinsed mine, and I know there's mixed feelings out there as far as rinsing your pasta or not rinsing your pasta, as far as do you wash the nutrients away, but I still just kind of feel like I prefer eating it once it's been rinsed, just my personal preference. So you do what is right for you. So then we're just adding our pasta into our pan. Our pan's gonna get heavy because we have a whole 12 ounces of pasta now added. So now I'm gonna stir this up. So if you're doing it in order of the booklet, your pasta is going to be in first, and then you're going to be putting your meat mixture on top, and then you're going to be adding the milk and cheese mixture on top of that. Well, that's the nice thing about the Tastefully Simple recipes is you can't really mess them up. So if you change the order of things, they still work out. They turn out just fine. They still taste wonderful. They're very easy. You can change them up to whatever your family preferences are. So if your family absolutely does not like the red and green and yellow peppers, you could leave those out. You could substitute it with some other vegetable. So if your kids eat peas, you could throw peas in there. You could throw whatever vegetable in there that your family prefers. So again, just really nice to be able to change up the recipes as to what your family likes, enjoys, so then they can, so that you'll know they'll eat them. I don't really have small kids in my house anymore. I just have a teenager who's not overly fussy and fairly open to new foods. So I get lucky in that way, but I know not everybody is. If you're feeding younger kids, sometimes they're a little bit choosier. So I'm first using the press and seal, and then I'm going to cover with the foil. So So we have double layered on here for the freezer. And I am putting so hopefully this is going to help them stack in my freezer a little better. And then they will also keep them freezer safe a little better. Okay, so one done. We are moving on to recipe 2, our Chicago style pizza. So we started with the oil in the pan. And so grab a brush and spread that oil all over the bottom. And then we're going to be putting our pizza crust into the pan. Unroll the pizza dough and form into the pan and up the sides. So I already cracked open my pizza dough. I don't know about you, but opening these things sometimes scares the jeepers out of me. So I did that off camera. I usually have to pound mine against the cupboard to get it to crack open, or it pops and the noise scares me. So I did it off camera just to save you some entertainment. So unroll your pizza crust, and we're just gonna spread this out. And again, if you have, I am kind of Pampered Chef, one of their best customers, and promote their utensils greatly. So we're just gonna spread that pizza crust in the pan, and you're gonna go up the sides a little bit, just to keep all of the toppings in. So hopefully when we're done here, we have pizza crust all across the bottom of our pan, as well as up the sides. That oil is making mine slip right back down. So it's being a little difficult here, challenging me a little bit. Okay, so we have that spread out in our pan, across the pan and up the sides. And as I put the toppings on, I'm gonna continue to slide that out because that oil is just making mine want to slide right back down. So we have the dough into the pan. So then we're going to top it with our cheese. So this is 2 cups of the mozzarella cheese. And this one, I bought the super big bag, so I'm actually going to measure this one. The challenge is getting it open. I hope I'm not the only one that has those struggles. So 2 cups of the mozzarella cheese. So there's one, and I'm dumping it right onto the crust. And my 2nd cup. And it calls for a mozzarella and provolone cheese blend. If you didn't find that and you're just using mozzarella, again, that's fine. You don't always have to use the exact ingredients like I previously mentioned. Your recipes are going to turn out just fine. So again, I'm just pushing down on the crust, trying to keep it up on the sides just to form a little barrier there to keep all of the toppings in the pizza crust. Okay, so I have my cheese spread on the crust. And then we are going to top it with the pepperoni slices. So 12 of the pepperoni slices. I'll probably end up with a little more than 12 because my favorite kind of pizza is meat lovers. So I would probably double the amount of pepperonis. So I'm just putting these out in a row of about 4. And I'm just continuing to keep putting them in. The directions say 12, but I'm getting 24 of them. I've actually doubled it, just what I suspected that I would do. So you have your mozzarella and your pepperoni on your pizza crust. And then our next step is going to be using the tomatoes. Calls for diced tomatoes, and I'm actually using crushed tomatoes again because I know my family and I know that the crushed tomatoes are going to be better received than diced tomatoes. It's just something about chunky things that kids steer away from. So we as moms learn to get creative and work around those things. And again, Pampered Chef. So if you know a Pampered Chef consultant, you can get your can opener too. Okay, so we have our tomatoes, and then we are going to mix this with a 1/4 cup of the Mamma Mia marinara. And that one I am actually going to measure. Mamma Mia marinara, I also like to use in my spaghetti. So if you're doing spaghetti, lasagna, any of those types of meals, you can add that into your meat mixture, and that adds a ton of flavor. And I only add 1 tablespoon to my spaghetti, so it doesn't take a whole lot. This recipe is calling for a 1/4 cup. This one will clump a little bit. The moisture gets to this one really quickly, but it breaks up super simple. So if you notice that yours is maybe a little clumpy, there's nothing wrong with it. It just has a tendency to do that easier than most of our other seasonings. Okay, tons of flavor. A 1/4 cup of the Mamma Mia into our tomatoes. And then we are just going to give that a stir. And then this is going to just be poured over the pepperonis and cheese. And then we are going to put our sausage on top of that. So just pour this over the top and spread it around. And then I'm taking it all the way to the edge. Pizza without sauce just isn't any good. So I'm making sure that I'm getting that all the way around, covering up all of my pizza crusts, all of the corners, and getting that in there real good. All right, then you should have a 1/2 pound of pork sausage. And that you could use the Italian, minus plain, mild or hot, whatever your preference is. And with the pork, we're just going to break that up into pieces and let that, and drop it on top of the tomato sauce. So 1/2 pound of your pork sausage, and just rip it I'm making mine kind of flat just so that it cooks up easier and quicker. I don't know, something about pork. I just, you know, you want to make sure you get that done. So I'm flattening mine a little bit. And put it all over. It's covering a lot more than I expected it to. So it's looking like it's pretty heavily covered. And again, I don't object to that because I like the meats on my pizza. I'll make a plug for the winery down the road from us. Rolling Forks Vineyard is only a mile and a half from us down the road here. And we like their pizzas. They have some interesting crusts on their pizza and some really interesting combinations. So if you're ever over in my neck of the woods, check them out. They're not a bad neighbor to have on those nights when you don't feel like cooking and want a little bit of a gourmet pizza, something a little different than your store-bought. Okay, so I have my pork sausage onto the pizza. I'm going to get a quick wash here. Okay, and then when we are finished putting the sausage on there, then we are going to sprinkle with the Parmesan cheese. So we're just going to cover that over the top. And again, we're going to be covering this with a couple of layers before putting it into the freezer. All right, we are covered with Parmesan cheese. Then we are going to cover with your Saran wrap or your pressing seal, and then your foil. So again, I hope if you are following this, that you are keeping up with me, that I'm not going too fast. One tip when you are doing the meal, it is pretty handy to just bring out everything on the counter. You might notice my countertop here. I have all of my ingredients, everything lined up there. So I was pretty ready to go when I started because I had all of my ingredients out. So we are covering up with press and seal here. And then we're going to add foil to that. Get this one covered, and then we will be starting recipe number 3. So if you are preparing these, hopefully, I hope that you are seeing how easy they are, the step-by-step instructions, and just the convenience of having these in your freezer ready to go for those busy nights or nights that you just don't want. So there's number 2. I would probably label these at some point too. If you have labels, actual sticky labels, you could use those, or even just a Sharpie marker and write on the foil. So then you know what you're going to be pulling out of the freezer. So do think of a way that you want to label these before you put them into the freezer. Okay, so we are starting our 3rd recipe then, the chicken and veggie stuffing casserole. So we are starting with our chicken with the garlic and the onion. So we had browned that in advance. And so then we're going to be starting with step number 2 on this one with the large bowl, mixing our sour cream and our milk. And I'm going to go ahead and start my water for my noodles, for the lasagna noodles. So I'm going to go ahead and get that boiling. So in our large bowl, we are combining the sour cream. So we want the whole 16-ounce container of sour cream. And to that, we're going to be adding a cup and a half of 2% milk. One and a half cups of 2% milk. And a packet of the jalapeno honey cheese ball mix and spinach and herb again. So again, I'm going to be using just the other half of the packet of the jalapeno honey cheese ball. That one has so much flavor, but it just brings so much heat with it too that I want to be able to taste when I'm done eating it. So we're going to be adding 1 tablespoon of the spinach and herb. So half a lid of the spinach and herb, or 1 tablespoon if you're measuring. So we're going to dump that in there and then whisk that together. And this one, we are going to be using a package of mixed vegetables. I bought just peas and carrots on this one. But again, you can use broccoli in this one if you choose, whatever vegetable your family will eat. And I think after you have this one, you'll know what tastes or what flavors you would like to try if you want to make this one a second time. And because if you use only half a packet like I did, you'll have the jalapeno honey cheese ball to make this again. So once we have that whisked together, then we are going to add the chicken right in there. And I have some seasoning in my bag and I don't want to leave that in there. I want that in with my chicken. So I'm gonna scrape that out into the meat mixture as well. Get all that flavor back in there. And then our vegetables. 16-ounce package, so that's the whole thing. And the cheese and half a package of the dry stuffing mix. So okay, and 1 cup of the shredded sharp cheddar cheese. So 1 cup is the other half of that bag. which I don't know that my measuring was quite so accurate the first time because there seems to be a lot in there. And then we're going to just stir that together. Now I used a large bowl and my bowl is full and I haven't added my stuffing mix yet. So if you're having some overflow issues, so am I. So we have our chicken and our vegetables in there with our milk mixture. And then half a package of the stuffing mix. And then we're going to put this into our 9x13 bowl. And the other half of the stuffing is going to go on top. So we're going to get this mixed together. We're going to put it into our pan. And then we are going to mix the rest of the stuffing with melted butter and 2 more tablespoons of the oil and put that on top. My video is going to end here in the next 5 minutes. So if it kicks us out, that's what I will be in the middle of doing, is mixing together the breadcrumbs, the stuffing mixture with the butter and oil to put it on top. So when you have that mixed together, then you can put it into your 13x9 pan, which is sprayed. And it's heavy, I warn you of that, it does get heavy. So we're just putting that in there and then we're going to top it with the extra breadcrumbs. So like I said, my camera is going to kick off here and then we'll be logging back in. So if it kicks off in the middle, that's what I'm doing in a medium bowl. The breadcrumbs. Two tablespoons of butter. It says melted. I'll melt it real quick in the microwave. And 2 tablespoons of the garlic oil. Getting my butter melted here, and then I'm going to mix that together and I'm just going to dump that on top of the casserole, and then we'll cover it with the press and seal or your saran wrap and the foil, and then that one will be done, and then we are done with 3 of the 5 meals. So we are at 35 minutes, so that's pretty quick for 3 meals. So we have breadcrumbs all mixed together, everything is moistened. And then I'm just going to spread these on top. And I'm looking forward to this one. I think this will be a nice cold day meal. Pull that out of the oven. It's one of those comfort foods, all of our Minnesota hot dishes. So there we go. And then we are going to cover that. Air is not your friend when it comes to your freezer. So even when you're using the press and seal and the foil, we want to get the air out. So this is my press and seal. And then covering with my foil. The lid. So there is meal number 3. So then we will move on to the next one, number 4 of 5. One of my favorites, the chicken pot pie. So this one, we are using our chicken mixed with our seasonings. And I have to find my skillet. Pardon me while I wash this up. Dishes are an unending saga at everybody's homes, right? I'm not the only one. It's kind of like laundry. It's never done. As soon as you think you're done, there's more, right? So we have our pan that we're going to put our chicken back into and add our other ingredients. So get that going. So if you're making this all as we go, so you've just browned your chicken and added the seasonings. So that's where I'm gonna pick up. It's on step 2 there with the chicken back in the pan. And so to the chicken, we're gonna add 3 more tablespoons of the garlic oil. So hopefully you can see me from back there. So I'm adding 3 more tablespoons of oil to the chicken. And then we're going to be adding our other ingredients. And flour. So we need 1/3 cup flour. So we're coating our chicken in the flour and oil. We're just going to give that a quick stir. So if you started your water for your lasagna noodles, mine's just about ready to boil. So, all right, back to our chicken. We have it covered with the oil and flour. And then we're going to cook it for a couple of minutes, and then we're going to add chicken broth, half and half, and spinach and herb. So we are going to be adding 1.5 cups of the chicken broth and 1/2 cup of the half and half. So 1.5 cups of chicken broth. And 1/2 cup of half and half. And then 2 teaspoons of spinach and herb. So again, I'm using my full-size jar, so not quite half a lid. So here our chicken starting to cook over here. And then we're going to add our liquid. So 1.5 cup chicken broth, 1/2 cup of half and half. And 2 teaspoons of the spinach and herb. I have another recipe that I make for the chicken pot pie as well. That's just as easy, but it's using the perfectly potato soup as your base rather than the milk or the chicken stock with the half and half mixture. So now we're going to turn that down and let that cook a little bit. We're still recording, so I was checking that out. So we're just going to boil it for 1 minute and then let it thicken. And then we are going to add in 2 cups of mixed vegetables. Okay, so I'm going to throw in my lasagna noodles right now. So when your water is boiling, go ahead and take care of that as well. And we need 12 lasagna noodles. So go ahead and get those started when your water is ready. And don't forget to stir your chicken. So we're thickening up here. We're going to boil this for just a minute, just enough to get that flour off the chicken and into the mixture and thickening. And then you're going to add 2 cups of frozen vegetables. So for this one, I am adding just peas. So whatever vegetable you have decided to use. Normally I like to use the peas and carrot mixture, but this time I'm just going to use the peas. so we're gonna let that warm together. And I'm going to pick up the peas that I dropped on the floor. Get my noodles going here, get them all in the water. Oops. There we go. And again, we're doing the lasagna noodles al dente. So you want to do it for 1 minute less than the directions call for. So I have added the vegetables to my pot pie mixture. And we are turning it off and removing it from the heat to let it cool. So then our next step would be the pie crust. So we have our pie crust. And I have a glass deep pie plate that I make mine in. So hopefully you have a similar dish that you can use. So, and you do want this greased. So I'm going to go ahead and spray this real quick. Unroll pie crust. And put that into the pie plate. And you can't see what I'm doing, can you? Let's back up here a little bit. And do try to stretch out the pie crust up to the top of the pie plate or whatever container, bowl that you're using, plate, dish, because we don't want that mixture to overspill too much. And I still, to this day, put slits in the bottom of my crust. To me, it just seems like then you don't get the bubbles in it and it helps the bottom a little better. You won't have any, what I feel are raw spots. Okay. So we have the first one in, and then when the topping is cooled, we're going to be putting this in. So we're going to just let this sit for a few more minutes before we put that into the crust. And then once we put the filling in, then we're going to just top it with our other crust. So I'm just going to take a minute here and get rid of some of my garbage. And then again, we'll be covering that one before putting it into the freezer. Okay, I don't know about you, but I just feel better if I'm cleaning up my space as I go. Okay, so while we're waiting for that to cool, then we are going to go ahead and take a look at our last recipe, the lasagna roll-ups. So our first step was browning the meat and then preparing our lasagna noodles. So my noodles are a few minutes yet from done. Turn those down just a little bit here.
You want to watch this with me? You want to watch this with me?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I've been involved in enough of it.
Okay, so looking at the lasagna roll-ups, then our meat mixture is done and our noodles are boiling. So, and I used hamburger in mine. So if you choose to use hamburger instead of the sausage, just because that's our family's used to the hamburger in lasagna rather than sausage, so I went that route instead, again, because you can substitute with the recipes, which is really, really nice. So to my hamburger then, or your sausage in the skillet, then we are going to be adding our ricotta cheese. So we have a 15-ounce container. So mine's a 32-ounce. So we're going to be adding just half a container of mine to the hamburger or your sausage. So I'm going to grab a pan here. And I'm going to put my hamburger back in that skillet. And then we are going to be adding the ricotta cheese and tomatoes and Mamma Mia and spinach and herb. So your 15 ounces of ricotta cheese. And our tomatoes, fire roasted tomatoes we are using in this one. We're gonna just add half a cup right now into our meat mixture. So half a cup of the tomatoes. We will be using the rest of the can in a bit. Okay, and then our Mamma Mia, we are adding 4 tablespoons of Mamma Mia. So that would be 2 capfuls of your Mamma Mia. And I'm not going to use the whole amount. I'm going to use 3 tablespoons, only 3, because I think that that has a lot of flavor to it. And I think 3 will be enough for my family. And 1 tablespoon of the spinach and herb. So half a capful, 1 tablespoon of the spinach and herb. And mix that together. So you have your ricotta cheese with your seasonings, half a cup of tomatoes, along with your meat mixture. So again, I use hamburger, but you probably have sausage. And we're just warming that together. My noodles were done cooking, so I have them draining and cooling down so that I can roll them. They're going to be pretty warm to the touch right now. So we're going to mix this together, and then we're going to jump back to our pot pie and finish that one up, as the chicken mixture should have cooled down by now. Okay, so I have that mixed together, and I'm just going to leave it on low just to warm it through a little bit. I'm turning my burner off. So that is done cooking. Jumping back to our pot pie now, I have the chicken mixture and we are just dumping that into the pie shell, the pie crust. And if I was making this on my own, I would actually bake that lower crust for about 10 minutes. To me, that just seems to make that bottom crust a little bit crispier. I bake it for about 10 minutes is all. And then I will pull it back out and put the chicken mixture in there. Now, if you're a fan of the magic chicken works fabulous in this one. And then when I do the magic chicken, I always shred mine. So it's shredded rather than the dice like we have today. So then we're going to take that other pie crust and just unroll that and put that on top. And then cut the slits in that so that if it bubbles over, it has some place to go. Hopefully we don't have any issues. And then pinch that a little bit with the bottom crust to kind of seal that. So that meat mixture has the crust to keep it inside. Give your crust a pretty little design, however you want to do that. And then I do slits in the top. And then again, we are going to cover that. So just with our press and seal. That's good, and I don't feel like I made that piece big enough, so I'm going to use a second one on this. Super big. Make sure I get it covered. And we will put the oil on top of this one as well. Pie is another favorite at our house, so this one will be one of the first ones that we have out of these meals. And it's one of those, it's kind of like your lasagnas, your chilies. It's one of those that the flavor is just enhanced as it sits overnight. So the second day, it's almost better than it was the first day. So as those flavors can blend as it is sitting. So that was our fourth meal, the chicken pot pie. So now we're going to go back to our lasagna roll-ups. So we are on step 2, and we added all of the seasonings to our meat mixture. And then we're going to put that into our lasagna noodles and roll them up. So a 1/4 cup. So if you have a 1/4 cup measuring cup, wipe that out because we use it for our seasoning measurement. And then you are going to want your last pan. And we are going to grease this as well. So spray that pan. Give myself some room here, so go ahead and take a minute to clean up and put some things away. Then we're gonna bring our meat mixture over. And again, remember this has our ricotta cheese in it, your meat, and your seasonings. So we're gonna take a 1/4 cup of this and we are going to be putting that into a noodle and rolling it. And then putting it into our pan. So my 1/4 cup measuring cup and a noodle. I'm gonna do this right on my counter. It was clean before we started. A 1/4 cup of the meat mixture, and then very carefully putting that into the noodle. So I don't know if you can see that very well, but I just have my meat mixture sitting right on top of the noodle there, and then we're just gonna roll that up. So grab your noodle and roll, keeping the meat mixture in there. And then putting it in the pan, putting it in the pan with your seam down. So a 1/4 cup of the meat mixture. We're spreading this out on the noodle. I didn't do that on the first one, but it seems like that makes a whole lot more sense. And then putting it seam down into the pan. We're gonna end up with 12 of these. So place them in your pan strategically so that you can get 12 of them in there. And then roll. So this is another one that I'm really curious to try because we love lasagna, but I've never had lasagna roll-ups. So this one, these 5 meals will probably be gone at our house in the next 7 to 10 days. There'll be only 2 of us here for some of those days, and so that's why I say 10 days. This will give our family 2 meals each out of each recipe. So this is 10 meals for us. So we will have our lunches and our suppers covered for a while, which is really, really nice. So again, we're just putting the meat mixture, spreading it on the noodle, and then rolling those. This actually goes pretty quickly. I thought this would be a little more tedious, but once you get the knack, it'll go quite quickly for you. And seam side down. Holds everything in. They're placed together so that it helps keep them lined up and help keeps that meat mixture in place as well. All right, I have 6 done, half done. So this is meal number 5. So we've been going for 1 hour and 15 minutes. So hopefully when you're doing these at home, that within 1.5 hours you'll be done, and even include time for cleaning up your kitchen. This is a little more time consuming than many of the other meal kits. Some of them, if it's just adding a couple of ingredients to each of the recipes, you could probably have 5 meals done in half an hour. So just kind of depends on the recipes that we're making. There is a variety of meal kits available. So if you decide that you enjoyed doing these, we will be doing freezer meals. I'm hoping for every month, as long as there's interest. I'll keep doing them for my family and I'll keep recording them. So whether you do them with me or do them at a later time, that whatever fits your schedule is totally fine. Okay, 3 to go here, and it looks like our meat mixture is going to run us right up to the last one. And then we have a topping that we're going to be putting on this. So we'll mix that together and then we'll put that over the top and then cover this one, and it'll be ready for the freezer as well. So 2 more to go here. Along with our 5 meal kits, we do have 10 meal kits as well. And Tastefully Simple this year has done a partnership with Feed My Hungry Children. And so from each 10 meal kit, 10% of the cost, so $6.99, will be donated to Feed My Hungry Children. If you're not aware of what that program is they assemble meals and send them to countries and areas that is specifically for the children of that area. So each meal kit, each 10 meal kit purchased will feed 29 children's meals, or make 29 children's meals. So as well as you're feeding your family, you're going to be feeding other families as well. So that's a feel-good part about purchasing any of our 10 meal kits. So we are very pleased to be partnering with Feed My Hungry Children this year on that. So there is my 12th one. Again, I need to rinse my hands. And then we are going to assemble our toppings. So clean up this area again and find my workspace. Okay, so then we need a small bowl for our Alfredo sauce, the rest of our tomatoes, and 2 more tablespoons of the Mamma Mia. And then we are going to sprinkle with a cup of cheese. So very quick, very easy. Last step here. I'm out of bowls. So we are going to use our Alfredo sauce. There's a couple of recipes using Alfredo sauce. Just makes for a really quick, really easy meal. So those are kind of nice to be able to just grab from the grocery store and implement those, incorporate those into another meal. And every last drop of the good stuff. Okay, and then adding the tomatoes. Called for fire roasted. I actually got just a garlic and basil flavored tomato. So again, you can mix and match a little bit. And then 2 tablespoons of the Mamma Mia. So that would be 1 capful or 2 tablespoons if you're measuring. And then just mix that together. And then we're going to pour that over our noodle rolls that we have done so nicely in our pan. And then we're just going to pour this over the top. So I know many of you are going to be doing this on your own. If you run into questions as you are going, feel free to send me a text or a quick phone call. I am usually available. I will answer my phone as long as I'm not in the middle of something else. I'm happy to help and answer questions, offer some advice if you feel like you're not doing something correctly or are confused with the instructions. So I have that over the top. And once again, we are just going to cover that. With our press and seal and foil. Then again, I have a lid for this pan as well. So, and I purchased the disposable pan because I wasn't sure if I would be keeping all of these meals or if I would maybe be giving them to some of my children that don't live at home anymore. Adult children that are on their own, but sometimes I still like to cook for them and send things home. So that's always a fun idea. Or if you have a neighbor that has had a busy time or needs some help with the meals, then you can certainly share these meals with neighbors or family members as well. So there we have it. We have our press and seal and our foil on our containers. And that one is all done. So there we are, 5 meals all done, freezer to oven. So you can put these into your freezer. And then when you decide to have them, you just pull them from the freezer, put them directly into the oven and bake them up. The instructions are right in your pamphlet. So you have everything that you need for your next 5 meals. Thank you everybody for joining me. Again, if you have questions, let me know. And if you are interested in doing more meal kits, I will be doing them monthly from here on out. And I'm happy to have you join me either live or if you need to do the recorded version, then that's okay too. So thank you and enjoy the rest of your night. Bye guys.